Hello, this is Mr. Knight. This is Algebra 2.2 and solving one-step equations, so we'll go through this as quickly as possible. And your secret word today is cookie. So let's look at the vocabulary. You have inverse operations are two operations that undo each other, such as addition and subtraction. So what they're talking about there is addition and subtraction are inverse operations. They undo each other. If I can add something, then I could subtract the exact same thing to get back where I started. The other two operations would be multiplication and division. They are inverse operations. And the other one would be the square root and square. Those are two operations that actually undo themselves also. Okay? So let's look at equivalent equations. These are equations that have the same solution. And I think that as an example, we know that 2 plus x could equal, let's just say x plus 2 to make it simple. So it's just two sides, two expressions that equal each other. Okay? Properties of equality. Addition property of equality. This is adding the same number to each side of an equation that produces an equivalent equation. So if you had like 2 is equal to 2, I could say that I could add 5 to both sides plus 5, and those equations would still be equivalent. Okay. Or those two expressions would still be equivalent. Then you have the subtraction property of equality, and this would just be the inverse of adding. If you had 2 is equal to 2, then I could actually say 2 minus 5 is equal to 2 minus 5, and those actually are still equivalent. You're subtracting the same amount from both sides. If you look at the multiplication property of equality, this could be 2 is equal to 2, then we might multiply both sides by 3, and it's still 6 and 6. So you can multiply the same amount on both sides and still have equivalent expressions. And then the very last one, just division property of equality. This is where you might have 4c is equal to 8, and I divide both sides by 4. Okay, so c is equal to 2 in this case. So I divided both sides by 4 by the same amount, and I still have equivalent expressions. Okay, so let's go on. All right, so here's our first one. Solve x plus 11 is equal to 15. So you start out with what's given to you, all right? And then what we're going to do is subtract 11 from both sides, and we get that x is equal to 4. Then you always want to do your check, all right? So that's going to be one of our requirements for solving equations, variables on both sides, multi-step equation, two-step equations, one-step equations, which is what we're doing. You are always going to do your check, all right? So if I think that x is 4, you take that x and you plug it, the value of x, and plug it right back in. So x plus 11 is equal to 15. That's what I started with. I'm substituting x or 4 in for x. I have 4 plus 11 is equal to 15. 15 is equal to 15. So since my solution checks, I know that my x is correct. Okay? So let's go on. All right, here's another one. Horizontal format. All right, so we have x minus 8 is equal to 17. So what we're going to do is add 8 to both sides. Okay? And we find out that x is 25. And you can verify there's a vertical format. I don't think I covered that before. A lot of people actually use this vertical format. It's where you're adding vertically instead of horizontally. So you just add both. They cancel each other. It's basically 0. And you just add, then I find out that x is equal to 25. 17 plus 8 is 25. So I know that my solution is 25. So now we need to do our check. Okay? So I have x minus 8 is equal to 17. Now do my substitution is equal to 17. 25 minus 8 is 17, and 17 is equal to 17. My solution checks out. Therefore, I know that my x is correct. Okay, let's go on. Solve these. So what I want you to do is to pause the video and run through these real quick, and then once you finish, start the video back up, and we'll check our answers together. All right, so let's check our answers real quick. Let's look at number 1. X plus 9 is equal to 5. You add 9 to both sides, or you subtract 9 to both sides. The reason being is I need to pull this 9 over here. In the process of doing that, we subtract 9 from both sides. Therefore, I have x is equal to 4. If I do my check real quick on the side, I have 4 plus 9 is equal to 5. I'm sorry, that's a negative 4. Negative 4, so negative 4 plus a 9 is equal to 5. And 5 is equal to 5. All right, so my check works, therefore I know my x is right. So let's look at number 2. Y plus 2 is equal to negative 5. I am going to subtract 2 from both sides to cancel off on the left. Therefore, y is equal to negative 7. If we do our check real quick, we have negative 7 plus a positive 2 is equal to negative 5, and negative 5 is equal to negative 5. My check works out, therefore I know my y is correct. Now if we look at number 3, 19 is equal to w plus 13. I'm going to subtract 13 both sides. It will cancel on the right. And 19 minus 13, or take away 13, is 6. So w is equal to 6. Let's do our check real quick. 19 is equal to 6 plus 13. 6 plus 13 is 19, and 19 is equal to 19. Therefore, my check works, and my W is correct. Let's look at number 4 down here. 8 is equal to Z minus 11. So we're going to add 11. And I don't know if you've picked up, there are 2 ways to actually do this. You can do the inverse operation. If I'm adding a number, just subtract a number. Or if you're subtracting 11, there's another way to write this. I could say something like 8 is equal to Z plus negative 11. All right. So since I'm adding, I can actually just add the inverse of that number. So you can do the inverse operation, keep the number the same, or you can keep the same operation, but you are adding the inverse of that number. So there's 2 ways to kind of look at that. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing for you. All right, so let's look at, let's do blue. So I add 11 to both sides. They cancel on the right. Therefore, 8 plus 11 is 19. Z is equal to 19. So let's just double check here. We have 8 is equal to 19 minus 11. 19 minus 11 is equal to 8. And 8 is equal to 8. Check works. My Z is correct. Let's look at number 5. I have M minus 3 is equal to 7. So I'm going to add 3 to both sides. They cancel on the left. 7 plus 3 is equal to 10. So right now I have M is equal to 10. Let's do our check real quick. I have 10 minus 3 is equal to 7. 10 minus 3 is 7. 7 is equal to 7. My check works. Therefore, my M is correct. Let's look at number 6. You have N minus 4 is equal to negative 12. You're going to add a positive 4 to both sides. They cancel on the left. A negative 12 plus a positive 4 gives me negative 8. Let's do our check. We have a negative 8 minus a 4 is equal to negative 12. Negative 8 minus a 4 gives me negative 12. Negative 12 is equal to negative 12. My check works, therefore I know that my N is correct. All right, so let's see what's next here. Solve an equation using division. So this is pretty simple. You have 7x is equal to negative 3. You're dividing both sides by 7. Therefore, x is equal to negative 9. If we do our check, we have 7 times negative 9 is equal to negative 63. 9 and 7 is 63. A positive and a negative gives me a negative. Negative 63 is equal to negative 63. All right? So solve an equation using multiplication. So it's just the inverse of what we just did. Your problem right here is x over 12 is equal to 4. You end up going to multiply both sides by 12. And the 12s on the left will cancel. We know that x is equal to 48. If we do our check real quick, we find out that 48 divided by 12 is equal to 4. 48 divided by 12 does equal to 4. 4 is equal to 4. My check works. Therefore, I know that my x is correct. All right, so we're going to do one more. Solve an equation by multiplying a reciprocal. So here I have a fraction. If you remember, reciprocal is just the inverse. So if I have a fraction 1/2, the reciprocal would be 2 over 1. If you had an integer, how do you make an integer into a fraction? Just put it all over 1, and then the inverse of that would be 1/4. All right. So we're looking at this equation. 3/5 x is equal to 6. If I multiply by the inverse of that coefficient, one way to look at this is that 3/5 divided by 3/5. Remember, you can turn any addition problem into subtraction. I'm sorry, you can turn any subtraction problem into addition by adding its opposite, right? You can also change any division problem into a multiplication problem by using its reciprocal. So 3/5 divided by 3/5 would be the same thing as using the reciprocal of that fraction, which would be 5/3. Turn division into multiplication and keep that same number. And this way, when you multiply those, It's just 1. And if you think about it, I'm dividing the same number by the same number, therefore it has to be 1. So if we're back up here, we're going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal. All right, so I know that the 3/5 and the 5/3 will cancel each other. They're basically 1. And 5/3 times 6 is equal to 10. Therefore, x is equal to 10. And then if you do your check, which I have run out of room, let's make some room here. All right, so let's look at our room real quick. Our check real quick. So we have 3/5 times the value of x, which has to be 10, is equal to 6. I know that I can simplify here. That gives me a 2. 3 times 2 is 6, so 6 is equal to 6. Check marks, therefore my x is correct. So what I want you to do is pause the video real quick. Based on time, because it's already 10 minutes, I'm just going to give you the answers to these. And if you have any questions, you can always ask me the following day. So pause the video, start it back up, and I'll tell you what they're, and we'll go over the answers, okay? All right, so let's go over the answers real quick. For number 7, we have that x is equal to 4. Give me another color there. X is equal to 4. If I plug that in, 9 times 4 is 36. Negative times a positive is a negative, so it is negative 36. If I look at number 8, y is equal to 3. If I plug that in, 7 times 3 is 21. If I look at number 9, x is 72. 72 divided by 3 is 24, and it looks like I have forgotten a negative sign, negative 72. It's got to be negative 72. That would give me a negative 24. All right. Then if I look at number 10, I have y is equal to negative 36. If I plug a negative 36 in there, 36 divided by 2 is 18, and then you have a negative divided by a negative, which would give me a positive 18. So that works. Number 11, I have z is equal to negative 20. If I plug the 20 in, I would have negative 2/5 times that negative 20 is equal to 8. Negative and negative will cancel. That makes it a positive value. And then I can simplify this by saying 4, and then 2 times 4 is 8. So that works. If we look at number 12, we have m is 28. So you have 16 is equal to 4/7 times 28. I can simplify that, make it a 4. 4 times 4 is 16, so that one works too. So I think that that's it. Let's see what's next. Maybe sometime today. 2.3, yes. So we are done with 2.2. I think. Yes, we are done with 2.2. If it wants to cooperate. There you go. So we're done with 2.2. So have an awesome day. And remember, your secret word is cookie. And we'll see you tomorrow.